Good evening, Alan, and tonight, breaking news in the Natalee Holloway case. You will hear directly from Natalee's mother and from her stepfather. They will be here telling you inside information about that now infamous Joran van der Sloot tape. That's the tape that caught Joran van der Sloot saying or confessing that his friend dumped Natalee Holloway's body off a boat into the ocean, even though Joran was not positive, as he said Natalee was dead. But there is more tonight. Joran said Natalee was shaking and then not responsive. We have new information about that. You will also hear directly from Dowry, the man Joran says tossed Natalee's body into the water. But first, at this hour, we are getting more information into Fox. Joran van der Sloot was the last known person to be seen with Natalee Holloway. In May 2005, 18-year-old Natalee Holloway vanished in Aruba during her high school graduation trip. Joran has repeatedly said he had nothing to do with Natalee Holloway's disappearance until now. Nearly 3 years later, Joran's been caught on tape talking about what happened to Natalee Holloway. This tape is a part of a hidden camera operation by Dutch crime reporter Peter de Vries.
Wat is dit allemaal? Maar heb je geprobeerd te reanimeren? Tuurlijk, Bert, ik heb alles geprobeerd, man. Ik heb haar geprobeerd te schudden. Ik zat dat lijf te schudden.
Joran says after Natalee was unresponsive, he had his friend Dowry toss Natalee's body off a boat. Though Joran says he was not even sure Natalee was even dead. To make it worse, if that is even possible, Joran says he didn't lose a minute of sleep over it. Joining us live in Birmingham, Alabama is Natalee Holloway's mother, Beth Holloway. Nice to see you, Beth.
Thanks, Greta.
All right, Beth, let me ask you the question. It's typically a social question, but I don't mean just to be polite and social. How are you?
Well, actually, Greta, you know, I'm taking a lot of peace and comfort in finally knowing what happened. It's just validation of the fight, and it feels good, Greta. It does. It feels good.
Take me back to when you first heard that there might be a tape of Joran caught on tape. I mean, when did you first hear about it?
Ooh, Peter de Vries had called me, well, I guess it was probably about a little more than a week ago, so it hadn't been very long. And the only thing he conveyed to me was that he'd had a major break in Natalee's case and asked me to come to the Netherlands. And, gosh, I just said, what day? And I didn't ask any questions. I didn't know what he had. But he did say we had a lot to talk about, and I just thought, okay. I mean, I had no idea, though, what was about to unfold. Absolutely not.
So you get on a plane, you fly to Holland, and then what happened?
Well, when I met him, he pulled, you know, we initially met at the airport, and within the first 10 minutes, he began to convey to me what he had. And he began telling me some of the things that Joran had admitted to during this taped session with Patrick. And you know, when you're hearing it, some of the things that I was hearing, of course, the first thing that struck me when Peter was telling me, and there was some camera crews around, and Peter began to disclose to me how Joran described Natalee's condition, the shaking, and I tell you, Greta, I mean, I had to ask everyone to leave the room. I wanted everyone out. I couldn't believe it, because, I mean, it was so stunning. It was so stunning that I was hearing these words that Joran was saying, because 2.5 years ago, gosh, Greta, within 48 hours of Natalee's disappearance, 48 hours, the lead detective, Dennis Jacobs, come to me in the Buvali police station and says, does Natalee have a history of epilepsy or seizures? And I thought, no. Why are you asking that? And they did it repeatedly to Jug, and when I was hearing that, it just felt like it brought everything full circle of what we had been fighting for.
Do you think if the Aruban police asked that question within 48 hours of Natalee disappeared, and now we hear it on the tape with Joran 2.5 or 3.5 years later, whatever it is by now, do you think the Aruban police heard him say that, or do you think he told that to the Aruban police that night when they talked to him?
I have absolutely no doubt that the only reason why that question was asked of us was they had a confession or an admission of this from Joran van der Sloot himself. So definitely, there is no way that we can tie what Joran said, you know, no way that we cannot tie what Joran said during that taped interview to what was asked of us from Dennis Jacobs within 48 hours. Absolutely. Absolutely, they knew.
You know, it's sort of interesting. I mean, watching, he's got a terribly callous disregard on that tape. I mean, it's a very different person than the person who sat down with me in March of '06, and a very different person than his mother described with the two of us inside their home in June of when she disappeared.
Well, what was so striking to me is when I was watching Yaron on the tape, it was like the first time that I had seen that side of Yaron since the night that I met him on the island. And over the 2.5 years, I saw a Yaron that's not the Yaron that met me that night in front of the Holiday Inn Hotel. That wasn't the same man. And when I began watching the tape, I was like, there he is. There's the Yaron that I met that night at the Holiday Inn, standing outside. That's the one that I knew.
I remember when we sat in the Vandersloot home with Mrs. Vandersloot, I think, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, did we discuss with Anita and Paulus about what we had heard that Yaron had, that he had a bad temper or something, or he had actually there'd been some issue in the family?
I remember during the first course of the conversation with Anita, she was conveying to us about his behavior, this aggressiveness, and that they were beginning to, or had already begun this program of seeking some assistance with his aggressive behavior that he was displaying. So, I mean, that was definitely coming out as we were speaking with Anita. So, yes.
Have you now seen? Have you seen the complete tape with the complete translation?
Ooh, well, I think there was a total of like 20 hours, I'm guessing. So, no, I have not seen all that, no. And I might not even be correct about the number of hours that Peter DeVries was able to secure. But, you know, I have seen more than what was aired, of course, on ABC when I was in the Netherlands. They played a little different clips there, so each one was a little different.
All right, Beth, if you'll stand by, we have much more with you in just a moment. And coming up later, the lawyer for the Kelpo brothers is here, and the Kelpo brothers, what's the story with them? Are they completely off the hook, or do they have problems? Make sure to stay tuned.